Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast that discusses how to stay healthy in this crazy, fast-paced world. I'm Tiffany Simms, your holistic wellness coach and burnout recovery expert. And today, if you have been feeling disconnected, going through the motions, feeling like no one gets you, or like there's just something missing, today's episode is going to be for you. So be sure to stick around, because today I am here with Becky Lukovic, who is the travel diva. She is all about making connections and finding her way through this spicy world. And I'm just really excited. Like, you do not understand the conversation this woman and I just had behind the scenes. And I was like, I need to be your best friend. Can we have coffee next week? And so I'm really excited for you to experience her and for her to just be here in conversation with us. So Becky, without further ado, thanks for being here. And can you just share who you are, where you're from, like what makes you you as a person?
Oh, I love that, Tiffany. Thank you for having me. This is awesome. And I loved our conversation earlier. So
It was so
I'm
good.
hoping some of that sparkle, shows up in this one. I'm sure it will. So I'm here in Atlanta. I'm in the travel industry. I'm a travel advisor. We do custom design trips and things like that for people. We do a lot of culinary travel, wine travel, adventure travel. So, safari, Antarctica to see the penguins, to see the polar bears and Svalbard, just all the things, all the fun things. That's pretty much what we do. And my passion is connecting women who love to travel. And so we launched a couple of years ago here in Atlanta. We launched a travel group for women called Ciao Bella, because, when I was a backpacker in my 20s, my girlfriend and I, we'd go through the streets of Italy and they would be like, Ciao Bella, Ciao Bella, and it was kind of fun, and now in my mid 50s, I feel like I need a little more Ciao Bella in my life. And so it's like, that feeling of I'm invincible because I'm beautiful. I can make traffic stop because Ciao Bella. So we decided to get women
I
together,
love it.
experience travel together, experience life together, that type of thing. So that's really my heart. My passion's travel, like curious travel, life-changing travel, and just hanging out on the beach with your toes in the sand, because sometimes a girl needs that too.
Right? You need I share that with my clients, like when we have assessment calls all the time. A lot of times being free at the beach comes up when I ask them to think about like their future self in this body and doing the things that they just feel like they're missing out on right now. And it's almost always a beach scene. And they think I'm silly, but I ask them, I'm like, what color are your toes?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like I want you to be there. I
yeah,
want you to
yeah.
feel it. Because you know what? At the end of the day, for in my world, it has nothing to do with the weight, that magical number or that magical pant size that you're dreaming about. It's about the life and experiences that you currently feel like you're missing out on in the body and life that you're living in. And so it's like, I need you
Absolutely.
to connect you to that future of where we're going so that you want to get messy and overcome these roadblocks. And so I love that you just said, like, let's sometimes we got to get our toes in the sand. Yes,
Yeah,
you
for sure. And these days we are so, I'm queen of it, addicted to busyness. How are you? Oh yeah, I'm really busy.
it's
You
like a
know,
badge of honor.
It is.
The
And
most
I
badge ever.
wear it. Mine's gigantic. I mean, I say it all the time. It gets out of my mouth and I'm like, oh, did I just say that? But you know what? When we're on the beach, usually our biggest decision, or at least my biggest decision is, hmm, do I want do I want a mimosa, or is it time for margarita? And that's my biggest decision. Or do I want to be at the beach, or do I want to be at the pool today? I'm without makeup. I've worn basically the same thing for 3 days, because a swimsuit and a cover up, maybe a different swimsuit, but and I've got my book, and that's it.
Love
And I
that.
mean, that's why it's glorious, is you can just be. That's
I
it.
love that so much. There's two things I want to touch on. One, I just want to share with the woman who's sitting here with us in this conversation, listen to whether it's on YouTube or Spotify. Like, I want you to know, Like, I saw this woman in a Facebook group and she was talking about connection and travel. And I was like, will you come on my show? Because can people underestimate the value of connection when it
Yeah.
comes to their holistic health? And like, you have over delivered in like the first 4 minutes that we've been here for why I felt so strongly about that. Like, I feel more alive right now with us being in this conversation because you and I are like actually connecting and being
Yeah.
seen and being heard and talking with each other rather than just going through the motions of life, which then ties into my other thought, which was you mentioned the badge of honor of busyness. And I think so often when I look back, because I don't use the word, if busy comes out of my mouth, I know that I misaligned somewhere. Because what I've learned is that when I was using the word busy, it was because I was trying to validate all of my hard work and efforts to someone else. And I wanted to look successful in the outside. But what I've learned, Becky, is that when you are truly successful and in alignment with yourself, you're not busy. It's I'm alive, I'm empowered. My team's been working on this really cool thing. Like there's excitement and energy in the response when someone asks how you are, rather than like, oh my God, I'm busy. If you only knew.
Yeah. And it's
You know what
kind
I
of our
mean?
way to justify our disconnection, you know? It's like, oh yeah, I've been so busy. I'm sorry I didn't respond to your text yesterday, or and it's like it's why, I'm on the hamster wheel, I'm kind of here, but my mind's kind of over here, and I'm breezing in and making an appearance at something, but yeah, I'm busy,
I'm not
instead of
prioritizing myself. I don't have time for me. I'm busy.
yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
like that like excuse caveat of like not holding yourself accountable to the things that are important to you because
Yeah, and
it's
being
hard and
vulnerable.
messy.
Yeah, and and like I said, I do it. There's zero judgment here because I still do it. I mean, I probably said it 10 times yesterday. I probably already said it today too, and I'm queen of that. I'm just trying to learn a different way. And it's hard because I am serious at it.
I really encourage you listening right now. If you find yourself when people say, how are you? Oh, busy. The kids are running here. Work's crazy. Like, if you're using the word busy, I really encourage you to spend some time on that and really pull back the layers of what does busy really mean? What are you trying to actually articulate to someone else? Is it that you don't have help? Is it that you are saying yes to the wrong things that you were supposed to be saying no to, which then make you have to say no to things you actually wanted? Like, what does busy really mean to you? And see where that conversation on your own takes you. I think it's a really valuable use of time, actually, to get more awareness in yourself.
Yeah, and I think, even for me, I think it's a way of, and you touched on it earlier, to validate our hard work. Especially, I'm an entrepreneur, it's like I'm the boss of my team usually. But but it's like I don't have, you know, an employer under me going, "Hey, great job on that bag." I mean, I have my travelers and my clients say it,
Do
but
you
it's
get
my,
the
"Did I
sticker?
get a gold star? I get the sticker."
I'll see you.
Yes, but yeah, but it's me validating the fact that, I'm kind of a, badass entrepreneur, if I could
Yeah,
say
you are.
that. But I'm self-validating, and yeah,
You know,
it's
as you were sharing that, there's another side of the busy too, because there was a stage I know in my own life where everything felt really good and I didn't feel busy as in heavy. But when someone asked, I would say I was busy because one, I didn't want to really like be thriving because I didn't want I was trying to avoid, I was manipulating and I didn't realize it, but I was really trying to avoid someone going, oh, must be nice. I can't wait
right,
for me to have a break. And it's
yeah,
internally, you're like, do you not know how? I didn't say I don't work hard. And so
right,
I
right.
was using busy also as a defense mechanism to avoid someone saying something that was going to make me want to jump their throat.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
know how hard I work? Like, don't come at me with that. Like,
uh, yeah, and I think managing that conversation, that's my biggest takeaway for this year and part of last year is just, I don't have to manage the narrative. It's like
yeah,
I'm always trying to make sure the narrative, doesn't hurt me.
Yes,
It's like I said, it's a defense mechanism, but it's like, why not just put it out there and just see
yes.
what happens?
God, this is so good. I've never actually thought about this at this like so deeply, Becky. I really appreciate you being here with me right now because you know what else just came up for me? Other times in my life when I've used busy, it was because I was just spinning. I was doing a lot of things, but none of it was fulfilling and none of it felt like it was moving the needle forward. And that felt busy. That was like that sense of busy.
Yeah.
I was not in control. I felt like I wasn't in control, whether I would have used those words then or not. Looking back, that's what was true.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. And, and just thinking about what I love most about experiencing life in a different zip code, i.e. travel,
Yeah,
is that your mind kind of opens up from that. It's like you kind of reconnect with yourself.
yeah,
And, it can be like the toes in the sand, or it can also be like one of those moments that I really love. I have this picture of me from a few years ago, but a friend had taken it and posted it on social, and I just I should get it and frame it. But I'm somewhere in Scotland or something. But it's nothing but a tree. But this tree is giant, like skyscraper giant, this big fir tree or whatever. And I'm teeny, you have to look and see me. And
just like zoom in.
I'm looking at the tree. So you see the whole tree, and then you see teeny tiny Becky, like here. It was like the whole tree was bigger than that. The whole tree and teeny tiny Becky. And I'm like, I love that picture because it's like I look so small and I felt so small, but I'm like, but that's when, like, when you go to the ocean or you go to a canyon or you see the Eiffel Tower or the Colosseum, you feel it's so grand and you feel
Yes,
so small, but then suddenly it like opens your mind to, you think of possibilities, you
yes.
know,
I just
and
had this experience on my mom's front porch yesterday, looking at some trees that were planted long before I was born. I was waiting for her dog to go to the bathroom and I was grounded. It was night, so like it was a different experience. I was like staring at the stars, my feet were in the grass, and like there's this giant tree and it just had and I was just thinking about how all of those tree branches since it was naked now, that the tree looks very similar underneath where it was rooted if I were to flip it upside down and just like the network of this world and that's that same feeling of that moment of just pause. And I'm so tiny, but how empowering is that at the same time of this entire experience that we get to have and that we
yeah,
get to craft that.
yeah, yeah.
So, Becky, I'm really curious. Who was Becky before she decided she wanted to help connect people and also travel the world with them? Like, what was going on for you where this even came into fruition?
Um, that's a really good question. So, I mean, I've been in the travel industry for over 20 years, but I'm just going to go from the connecting women. I've always, for not always, for a long time, I really, well, let me back up. So, there was a time in my life, when I was younger, you know, I had this point to where, after like school, I realized I didn't have a lot of girlfriends, and I was like, and I loved hanging out with, I mean, guys were easy, it's like I had tons of guy friends and a few girlfriends and all that. But I found that I didn't, that was a missing piece in my life. And by friends, I mean like someone that, you could be super vulnerable with, that you could share your secrets over a bottle of rosé, and your jammies kind of friend, kind of deal. And so I started needing that connection and I started realizing that I needed that connection. And then I started wanting to help other people connect. So when I would have dinner parties at my house or get-togethers, I would love inviting people with my different friend groups and just to connect them. It's like, oh, and it's like, oh, they're gonna love meeting this person and they're gonna love meeting this person. And that's like that became really my favorite thing. And so fast forward to, let's see, probably 2018, 2019. I started hatching this idea of being able to connect women to travel together, because I had spoken to so many women over the years who were like, oh, I would love to go. I don't want to go by myself because that's awkward. I don't know if I feel safe. I don't know, all these unknowns. I don't want to join a group of 200 women going, but if I had a girlfriend who would go with me, I would totally do that. And then they would miss out on these things that they really, really wanted to do. And I heard enough of them that I'm like, what if I created it?
What if
And
I keep
so,
hearing this conversation because I'm meant to do this for people?
yes. And so, at that point, I brought on a team member, Susan, onto my team. And then she and I kept talking about it. And then we just hatched this idea. It's like, what if we do it? And it was seriously, we were hatching it in the end of 2020. I mean, nobody's traveling. And so we kept talking. And
Great
then
timing.
I know, right? But it gave us time to dream. And,
But
you
what
know,
a better time to launch when people were ready to start reconnecting.
well, and I'm a procrastinator, so it really took me beyond that to, we just kept talking about it, talking about it. And so I was being featured in an industry magazine, an luxury travel advisor, and I was going to be the cover story. So check off cover girl off my left list. And
Congratulations.
I know. So I told her, I'm like, okay, in my interview, they had all the questions. I'm like, they said, what's next on the horizon? And I had done zero with my travel club. And I'm like, okay, Suze, I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to put it in print. I had done nothing, but if it's in print and all my colleagues and all the people in the entire travel world see that's coming, I already had the name. I'm
I have
like,
to do it.
I'm putting it in print, and I had to do it. So I put it in print and I read it. And then I'm like, panicked because I'm like, I have to do it.
You're like, oh crap. Can I delete it? Can I get back to that? Like, can we take it back? Oh no.
And people were asking, like, people were like, hey, Becky, I'm really interested in this Ciao Bella thing, and I'm like, yeah, it's all gonna be awesome, and so yeah, so January, that was September, and January, I'm like, we're hard launching, we're doing it, we're in. And yeah, so that's kind of
I
long way
love
from
that.
how it became. Yeah.
So now that you've been doing that for a minute, like, and you take that 360, like that bird's eye view, what have you noticed from the women when they come in versus like like, is there a transformation? Like, what are they coming in for? How are they transforming while doing this? Like, what are you seeing that we can help paint that picture for someone that might not be picking up the pieces that you and I have been painting?
Yeah, one of the most interesting developments, and I'll tell you the interesting development, then I'll back it out, is, we've done a few of these groups. One of the most interesting developments is suddenly everybody's getting invited to do stuff in Atlanta that's not travel related. So for example, one of our members who's all into tiki's like, hey, the tiki guy from Paris is coming in. He owns the tiki bar in Paris, and he's coming in at Victory, this tiki bar. I forget the name of it, but anyway, but it's like, hey, who's in? And then it's like, oh, hey, I'm going to go do line dancing somewhere. Who's in? And so our WhatsApp group for the trip, started becoming this social WhatsApp, and I just keep combining it. So now it's like we have a social WhatsApp, for people who are like, hey, listen to live music tonight. And so
You
the,
are helping adults make friends, which is really, really hard, especially if you don't have children or your children are grown.
yes, and that was part of that discussion where it's, it's easier in school because you kind of have a captive audience, and then you kind of keep some of those friends, and then you get married, and then or you have kids or whatever, and then you kind of, as your kids have friends, your friends, even if they're not super close, become their kids parents or classmates, or that kind of thing. So you have this group of friends, but then when your kids get grown like mine, then suddenly you're like, okay, where am I going to find friends? People move away, this and that and the other. Maybe I'm in a different place for my old friends, and suddenly you're finding these friends who love the same thing you do.
Yes.
They want to see the world. They want to go eat really good food. You know, they want to be somewhat adventuresome because we're all together talking about it. And that's been the cool thing is seeing those friendships start and people are showing up as their authentic self. Like we're having book clubs on a canal boat in Burgundy. You know, we had a dance party. We did it 2 nights because it was so fun the first night, you know, but people are showing up as their authentic self and I love it.
That is so awesome. And I just love this because personally, like, let's be real. It back in, I mentioned with you earlier that my word for this year was connection, that I just wanted to get to know people and meet people and be with people, human to human, and not just on this social media rat race, right? And part of that was because I'm 39, almost 40. I don't have kids. And like, I can't tell you how many times in the last like year and a half I've asked myself, like, where do you make adult friends who like what you do? Because you look through the Parks and Rec and there's stuff for like old people. I'm not quite there yet. And then there's stuff for parents with kids, and I don't have that either. And while I go to everything my friends have for their kids, I go to all the plays, all the everything. Like there's still some things that I can't give those friends because
Yeah.
I get it, but I don't get it, you know? And so
Yeah.
it's like, well, where do I go? There is literally nowhere for me to go make friends. It's not like in college where you just go to the cafeteria and you sit down with someone who's eating at the same time as you,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I love this so much. I love what you're doing for women and out in the world. I think it's so needed. There's not a pocket for it. The
Yeah.
pocket
I
didn't
love it.
exist.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, you know, since we meet locally, you know, 6, 7 times a year, you know, I think that's the difference. You know, it's like I'm not here to sell a once a year cruise. I'm not here to sell, you know, XYZ. I mean, you know, we do some group trips together, but honestly, if two of them would get together and say, "Hey, I want to go to the," well, we did the Shrimp and Grits Festival. If they said, "Hey, we want to go to the Shrimp and Grits Festival," or "We want to go to the Maryland Crab Festival," or whatever, and they're like, "Who's in?" and I had nothing to do with it, I'm probably going to even join them. I'm like, "Hey, I'm in. I'll go."
I
You
want to go.
I want to go. And so that was the heart of it. It was the connection. And people assume that the women in my club are single. And I would say at least half, if not three-fourths, they're married. They just travel sometimes with their spouse and not others, or they don't want to travel, or their partner, you know, they want to do other things.
That goes into such a big topic in holistic wellness and health of like your partner and your best friend. They can't be all the things that you need. Like I'm
Uh,
sure they can be a lot of it, but like that's taking responsibility for yourself, filling your cup, going after the things that you uniquely enjoy. And I'm sure those women also share that like if I am a solid human on my own and my partner is a solid human on their own, then when we come together, like we'll be unstoppable.
yeah,
And I think that's a dynamic that women are healing from like like the last two generations of just give. Our partners and our kids have to provide everything to us. And so I
yeah,
think that's really cool too. And so it's not surprise. I said all of that. That was a very long-winded way of saying like it doesn't surprise me that you have a lot of women who are in happy couples, are happy
yeah.
couples, because you want friends. You need people to have things in common with and to adventure. And sometimes your husband isn't the person you want to talk to about certain things.
Yeah. You know, and I think that's been the fun of it. And you know, even on our trips, the other fun thing is people we leave space for people to do things they want. Like we did pre, you know, in Paris, we had a few days pre whoever wanted to come early and you know, we're getting on the canal barge, but you know, we had a couple things planned, but it was always like, hey, whoever wants to go on the food tour, you can. And then some people wanted to go do, you know, a tour later that evening, and a couple people wanted to do something else. I was going to do a, you know, a certain restaurant that I'd found, and I'm like, I'm really into this restaurant, you know, but we all kind of did our own little thing. We came back together and we kind of talked about our adventure, and that was fun too, you know. And the same thing on the boat. You know, some people kind of walked the path the whole time on the boat. Some people were reading, some people were doing other stuff, you know, and it was just kind of, it's kind of
What
fun
a
because,
healthy
you know,
dynamic of come as you
Right.
are, do what works for you. No one's holding it against you if you don't want, like, if you go do your own thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's like connection goals of
Yeah.
being around people who just let you be you, invite
Yeah.
you in. But if you're not into this and you want to do your own thing, like, have at it. See you later. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good. I have to ask,
Yep.
Becky, how do people connect with you? Like, I'm sure she's listening right now and she's like, oh my God, I need to be Becky's friend. How do I sign up for this group? Like, how do people connect with you to get involved?
So, okay. So of course I'm on Insta. On Insta, I am My Bella Travel. And then Facebook, same. And then you can go to mybellatravel.com and then you can, navigate to the Ciao Bella area. Ciao Bella does have their own Instagram. It's not very, we don't publish as often because I gotta have a life, but but there are some things on there, but you'll find a few things on there, but Instagram, my webpage, Facebook, those are the best ways to connect with me.
I love it. And I might be speaking out of turn, but I feel like if there isn't something happening in your area, Becky might be more than happy to help you start your own chapter in your area and help this go national and international a little bit. I'm
It's
just gonna
it's
throw that
definitely
out there.
it's definitely part of the greater big vision. So we haven't totally fleshed it out yet, but I am totally up for
But
serendipity.
like everything else, sometimes someone just has to say yes and then you're off to the races.
True story. True story.
Becky, is there anything that is on your heart right now that we didn't talk about that you wanted to share or a final message you want to leave our listener with today?
Yeah, I mean, I would say be fearless. That was last my words last year were be strong and courageous, but fearless, be fearless. And you know, think about those things that you always wanted to do or you wanted to become, or just take a step, do it, whether it's travel or something else, but do it. And then find some women or a tribe. It's scary and vulnerable to bring people along with you, but it's worth the risk, and it is. And so be fearless, go see the things. I mean, seriously, go see the things.
Go see the things, the perspective, if nothing else, than like the cool adventure, the story later, the memories with people that you had fun with, and then
Yeah.
just the perspective, right? Of just standing in front of things that are God knows how old, sometimes just brings a whole new wave of life over you. At least that's what I have found.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, it gives you a story to share. If you have children, to share to your grandchildren or your friends or whatever. And sometimes it's about the big things, and sometimes it's about that sassy waiter in Paris who, had no personal space, and I mean, sometimes it's those crazy stories of I got off on the wrong train stop and then the adventure started, but that's kind of part of it, too.
Connect, travel, and live. I love it so much. And with that, that's two humans talking. I will see you next time. Bye.